Lacking infrastructure hampers growth and investments. A tragedy took place in Morbi, Gujarat, where a suspension pull collapsed, leading to the deaths of at least 135 people. Weak infrastructure is a key impediment to improving manufacturing competitiveness. The Indian government still estimates an expense of over $1.5 trillion. Recently, a tragedy took place in Morbi, Gujarat, where a suspension pull collapsed, leading to the deaths of at least 135 people, and the death toll could rise further. It is an absolutely shocking incident and a serious jolt to the ambitions of a rising India, challenging the status quo and looking to tell the world that we are on the path to economic success and citizen well-being like never before. The authorities have started their investigation and the Honorable Prime Minister himself has taken notice of the issue. This incident is not only saddening due to the loss of precious human lives, but leaves a wider question unanswered. How does the lack of proper infrastructure hold India back, and what are the reasons for it? In this video, I will try and answer both these questions. India's ambition of sustaining its relatively high growth depends on one important factor: infrastructure. The country, however, is plagued with a weak infrastructure incapable of meeting the needs of a growing economy and a growing population. S&P Global Ratings project India's GDP to grow around 8% for the next 3 fiscal years, one of the fastest among the large economies. The government also aims to significantly boost manufacturing to contribute to an all-time high of 25% of GDP by 2025, from below 16% currently. India is striving to improve its manufacturing competitiveness at a time when manufacturing powerhouse China is shifting towards a consumption-led growth. China now faces the risk of overcapacity in segments such as port and power. For India, on the other hand, its road to sustainably higher growth and a competitive manufacturing sector goes through robust and reliable national infrastructure, especially in power and transportation. Despite efforts from the government to improve the infrastructure in India, investing about 35% of GDP on it, the Indian government still estimates an expense of over $1.5 trillion over the next decade to improve the sorry state of affairs. Money spent on infrastructure as part of capital expenditure yields results multifold, as there is a clear multiplier effect. Lacking infrastructure hampers growth and investments. In my view, poor infrastructure is among the biggest hurdles facing the Indian government's ambitious program called Make in India, which aims to improve the nation's manufacturing capabilities and support higher growth for generating employment. I believe corporate growth and investments can be hampered if the government fails to close the infrastructure deficit, which some experts estimate cost about 4 to 5% of GDP due to inefficiencies. Infrastructure development can not only help remove some of these inefficiencies, contributing immediately to economic expansion, but also support stronger long-term growth. India's power infrastructure, traditionally a weakness, seems to be turning a corner, but transportation infrastructure still faces overwhelming capacity constraints. The execution capability will remain the biggest challenge for transportation infrastructure projects based on lessons learned from the power sector. The government has to lead by example by spending first and demonstrating the ability to execute projects. Sustained policy improvements, confidence in sustainability of economic growth, and infrastructure development will be essential to attract otherwise muted private sector investments. Another aspect is adequate funding should be available for commercially viable projects as contractors' financial health improves, capital markets gain greater confidence in contractors' execution abilities, and banks improve capital adequacy and appetite for infrastructure lending. Infrastructure development can in turn support demand for other industrial sectors. S&P Global Ratings sees a clear economic benefits and positive credit impact from infrastructure spending, with the so-called multiplier effect of spending 1% of real GDP likely to boost India's GDP by at least double that amount. We can see from the data here that multiplier effect for India is exactly at 2, with the projected job gains of over 1 million. Weak infrastructure is a key impediment to improving manufacturing competitiveness. India's infrastructure bottleneck is a primary constraint to improving or even maintaining its global competitiveness, as measured by the World Economic Forum's Study on Global Competitiveness report, for 2015-16. India is ranked at number 55 out of 140 countries. Its relatively poor quality power and transportation infrastructure contribute to that weaker position compared to Asian peers like China, Thailand, and Indonesia. However, quality of infrastructure is also a relative weakness for China. In India, key urban centers and manufacturing hubs often struggle with capacity constraints, which directly affects competitiveness. By comparison, in China, eastern and coastal manufacturing hubs with an export focus benefit from strong infrastructure and limited need for inland transport, so it doesn't hurt export competitiveness. However, the rural areas away from China's manufacturing hubs do suffer from some connectivity issues. We can see the global competitiveness and infrastructure rank comparison between India and China. Logistics cost in India, about 15% of GDP, and China 18 to 20%, are both well above the average for developed economies. For China, we consider toll collections, fuel taxes, and inter-province protectionism as the key reasons for higher cost. In India, they likely reflect inadequate transportation infrastructure and a multitude of taxes across states, which results in costly and inefficient movement of goods. We believe the proposed Uniform Goods and Services Tax in India, which aims to remove the cascading effect and inefficiencies created by different layers of taxes across states and central government, can significantly benefit manufacturing competitiveness. While the GST should be favorable for most sectors, we expect the logistics and manufacturing sectors to be amongst the biggest beneficiaries. Transportation infrastructure faces capacity constraints across segments. India's congested road network, inordinate delays in railway freight movement, inefficient and long turnaround time at ports, and fast-growing but highly concentrated airport sector all add up to significant capacity constraints. Land acquisition issues often result in significant time and cost overruns for railways, roads, ports, and airport developers, which puts them at a high risk. Transportation infrastructure could significantly benefit from a stable regulatory environment with an independent regulator and supportive comprehensive policies, in our opinion. These factors underpin the credit strength of the power generation and transmission sector. Tariff disputes and in some cases lack of independent dispute resolution mechanism have harmed the financial health of some transportation infrastructure developers. In contrast to the highly stable regulations for transportation infrastructure sector globally and in the Asia-Pacific region, we see such regulations as a relative weakness in India. This also creates higher volatility for cash flows of Indian companies in a sector where cash flows generally demonstrate low volatility. Governance. After all the theory and the numbers, what it essentially comes down to is the governance capacity of the state. Unfortunate incidents like the one in Gujarat cannot be brushed under the carpet using academic language or theory. It was not lack of money or anything else that led to this disaster. It was human negligence caused by complacent and unprofessional work. Of course, now the police and other law enforcement agencies will do their job, but an incident like this demands the state must act with toughness and ensure that not only is the taxpayer money spent properly on infrastructure development, but also the infrastructure already built is well maintained and has a multi-layer supervisory system along with strict accountability measures. There is an urgent need to do an audit of critical infrastructure in the country, including other bridges, dams, etc., so that such tragedies can be avoided before they take place. If you found the video informative, make sure to like it. Also, subscribe to the channel for similar content. Take care of yourselves and your families. God bless us all. Thank you.